Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, was Sir Keir Starmer right to attack Trump on NATO? Now, Sir Keir Starmer has taken a swipe at former US President Donald Trump for criticising NATO members. The Labour leader has pledged that he'd stand up for our allies if he were to become the UK's next Prime Minister. Now, of course, this follows Mr Trump suggesting that he'd encourage Russia to attack any NATO members that failed to spend enough on defence. But with Trump slightly ahead in the polls, was Starmer right to criticise him? Or is he damaging UK-US relations? What do you think? So joining me to discuss this, former advisor to the Bank of England, Dr Roger Gewolb, and Chair of Republicans Overseas, Greg Svensson. Well, I'm going to start with you, Greg, seeing as you're Chair of Republicans Overseas. Was he right, Sir Keir Starmer?
The short answer is no. I think he could have been much more constructive. If he's thinking that Trump might be president, he should be a little bit more constructive about it. Maybe even suggest that the countries that are not contributing 2% of their GDP to military spending maybe should step up and do it. And that's, obviously NATO is completely dependent on U.S. involvement. So President Trump has a funny way of saying things sometimes, but his point is correct that, with only 11 members of NATO spending 2%, that's just inadequate.
Well, after he said it, after Trump made his comments, a lot of them started to cough up. So whatever he did worked. Roger Gewolb.
Pardon me. Well, I think there are 2 points. One about the men and the other about the issue. Regarding the men, I think that Keir Starmer, who when Boris calls him the human bollard, it does kind of...
Did he call him that?
Yeah.
Not bad.
No, he's called him that many times, the human bollard, and it does ever so slightly resonate. The thing being that he's now trying to make, at least with the anti-Semitism issue, a show of himself as a stronger leader, a bit of a strongman. Whether he'll carry that through if he's elected, I don't know. Whether we'll have Jeremy Corbyn, whom he tried to get elected twice, of course, appear from the woodwork is anybody's guess. But he's trying to put on a show of strength, and I think he killed it all by criticizing former President Trump for doing one of his usual theatrics to get some results, which he always seems to do. Moving to the issue, I think that it's just absolutely unacceptable for these countries not to meet their commitments and yet expect to be defended. I don't support Trump in saying that he would encourage Putin to attack them, but I do support him in scaring the pants off of them. I mean, as I've said on other programs, if you belong to, do you belong to a club? Does the club let members in who don't pay their dues? Why is the UK the only country with the United States counterattacking the Houthis, for example? I think it's shameful.
I mean, that's a shocker that others aren't stepping in and getting involved in that and actually protecting the interests of those in the West, which is what America are doing. And the Houthis are thugs and pirates. Even actually at the pro-Palestine protests, people were in support of Houthis. I mean, this is how crazy it's gone.
Yeah,
but
really.
What gets me is, though, you both seem to equally criticise Trump for the way he said it, but I don't criticise him. I think he's absolutely spot on, because what happened after he said it that way, a lot of them have stepped up.
Sure.
So
it went from
what other way could he say it? And he's not even the president.
Yeah, well, and he started this in 2017 when there was only 5 countries meeting the commitment, and then they moved up to 11. So progress. It's better than nothing. So good for him. And if he says it in an unfiltered way, that's just Trump's nature. And so he's not always perfect with the delivery, but the point is absolutely correct. And
I didn't criticize him at all. I simply said that he might not have said I would encourage Putin. All the rest, he's absolutely right.
Well, I don't know. What does Neil Hamilton think of that? He's joining us now. He's a UKIP leader. He's there in Wiltshire. Neil Hamilton, your thoughts on this? Was Trump right? And actually, even the way he said it as well.
Yeah, I think Trump was absolutely spot on the button. These European countries have been freeloading off the United States for decades. And now that the geopolitical plates are moving in different directions with the rise of China, the US is inevitably going to concentrate more on the Far East than they are in Europe, where we are mature democracies. Some of the richest countries in the world can well afford to pay for our own defense in alliance with the United States. There's no reason whatever for anybody to fail to meet the NATO commitments. I mean, the US is spending 3.5% of its GDP on defence. Britain only barely spends 2%. I don't think we're spending enough in this country, even though we meet our NATO commitment.
Well, and Greg is nodding his head there. Neil, just to briefly ask you then, do you think Trump's delivery was acceptable, though? Because that's the other side of it. People are talking about the delivery and the way he said it, and the threat towards Putin should attack the other countries that don't pay it.
Well, Trump is not a sort of polished Oxford Union debater, is he? So he's a rough, tough property magnate from New York. And you mustn't expect the kind of manners that you would expect from Oxford or Cambridge students in a debating chamber. You just have to accept that's the nature of the man. He knows what gets results. The Art of the Deal is his book, and it's written as a result of his own experience.
He did it. And I've realised I've done deals using the Art of the Deal without even knowing it, so I'm good too. Right, let's bring on Nigel Nelson as well, because Nigel Nelson, they're coming in from all over, aren't they? There we go. Nigel Nelson, your thoughts then. Was Trump, the delivery some people are complaining about, but was he right? And was Keir Starmer right to then sort of attack him for it?
What he said was clearly wrong, that you don't encourage Russia to attack a NATO member. Where he was right originally was absolutely that of course people should pay up what they owe. What NATO is, it's a club. It's there to defend us all. And as with all clubs, there are membership fees that if you want to continue, you have to actually stump up. So Britain's been very good on this. That back in 2014, when the 2% defence target was set, us and the Americans and Greece were the only ones to pay the money. As you just said, that now we're up to 11 of 31 members, but even so, that's only a third. So it is quite right for Trump to get angry about America having to fund Europe's defence umbrella, but don't go around telling Putin to go and attack a European country.
But it wasn't. But you and I know that wasn't a literal meaning. You knew. Come on, let's not pretend here that we're stupid. That wasn't a literal meaning. That was a play, and it was a tactic. And I'm quite clear that that's what he was saying. I find it incredible that people want to take this out of context. But Nigel Nelson, very quickly, was Keir Starmer right then to sort of comment and criticise Trump?
Yes, I think he was. Bear in mind, he didn't mention Trump by name. But yes, I do think the criticism is right. That Keir Starmer's going to have to work with whoever is the American president. It could well be Donald Trump later on this year. I think it's not a bad thing to lay down a marker saying, hang on, let's get the language right, but broadly we will be agreeing with you about the amount of money people should pay into NATO.
Yeah, but it just doesn't seem very wise of him. He could have done it differently. If we're talking about people doing things differently, Keir Starmer perhaps should have done things differently.
May I make one quick important
I'm going to come to you, Roger Gewell, for a final word to you. Was he right? And what are you going to say, Roger?
One other thing I'd like to say very quickly is that I also picked up what I thought was a bit of a dog whistle in Keir Starmer's fulsome and almost obsequious reactions and body language with the Europeans. It made me wonder where this is all positioning him to ask them to let us back in and tear up Brexit.
Yeah, that's where we all probably end up. So do you think, then I'll ask you, Roger, yes or no, was Keir Starmer right to criticise Trump?
You're asking me?
Yeah, yes or no?
No, absolutely wrong. I think it hurt him when he's trying to show himself as being a stronger leader.
Greg Sensen?
No, ma'am.
No. Neil Hamilton?
Big mistake. And
Nigel Nelson?
Yes.
Yes, brilliant. All right, thank you so much for your thoughts. Brilliant. Roger Gewell, Chair, Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson, leader of UKIP, Neil Hamilton, and also GBNews political commentator Nigel Nelson. Thank you so much. Right, so what do you think? GBviews@gbnews.com or tweet me at GBnews. This is GB